Hey team, welcome back to another episode of the Jen Commandments podcast. I am your host, Jen Wynn. I'm an engineer currently working in Wisconsin. I grew up in the Chicagoland area and I went to college in Michigan. Hey, happy Saturday. How are y'all? Ugh, I've been feeling heavy. This I don't know how else to describe it. I've had a couple times this week where I've been faced with the opportunity to either repeat patterns or decide that I'm going to go down a new path. And I've decided the healthier options both times, which has been pretty cool. Proud of me. It's just existing so hard. You know? Um, yeah. I I don't know what I'm going to talk about today. I did write a list of some red flags, and then I do have a note of my ideal partner that I can share with you guys. I guess we could talk about dating a little. I'm not really interested. I that was sort of the thought that I had for the episode, but I also just want to talk about whatever I want. I've been in my substance rabbit hole still. I rewatched Little Women this morning. I've just been really sitting with the that is trying to exist as a woman right now. I guess that's it. I guess there's nothing to expand upon that. But like, damn though. It's just a lot. Um yeah, I don't know. I Men are so disappointing. I've really sort of it sucks because in theory I would love to see this new I would love to see men rise to the occasion. Um but I don't think it will be like I do think there are some men have risen to the occasion, right? But I do also think that because we can so easily get entrapped in our social bubbles, in our social circles, that like these men are entering echo chambers of like, fuck that bitch, I guess. Um, and then never like men will make like $45,000 per year. Not to say that that's an inadequate amount of money, but not to provide, certainly not to provide for oneself, even as a single person, let alone be a provider for a relationship. Yeah, like men will make not a lot of money, and then they'll be like, I expect you to look at me as a provider. And then, but they also don't want to feel taken advantage of. So they're like, but you should also work. But when I'm better at the game than you are, then what? Then you feel inadequate. Oh my God, Jesus Christ, Is it my job to make you feel adequate? I don't know. Maybe you should make yourself feel adequate for once. Maybe you should put some effort in that makes you feel fucking adequate with yourself. I don't know. It's just so exhausting, you know? And that's some real man hater shit right there. But it's just a lot. I give like one. a man a chance a year. And they have like one or two times to disappoint me. And then I'm like, all right, I'm out. It's just, yeah. And then it waits for another, I don't know, year and a half, 2 years. Yeah. One thing about me, I'm not willing to play the game. I wish I was. Unfortunately for y'all, I played the game from like ages 11 until I don't know, like last year ish, if we're being real, you know. I could say that I think that I stopped playing the game sooner, but I didn't. But I've been playing that game for most of my young adulthood into regular adult. I don't know what I'm considered an adult. Um, but I'm tired. I'm not doing it. Little Women has shown me a lot. We'll do a whole episode about Little Women someday. it's just very emotional for me. I basically sobbed through most of it, you know? And I think the reason why is because you see so many different pathways for being a woman, right? And they're all deeply dissatisfying, sorry, in a lot of ways, you know. There certainly can be goodness, right? If you sort of accept your life. And I guess everyone does that. I guess it's not just women, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's weird. And then I've also been Lori, which is like the male character in the movie. His name's Theodore Lawrence, but they call him Lori. Joe calls him Teddy. And I've been Lori in a lot of ways as well. So it's is very Little Women is a great novel and me repeats. Great movie as well. I couldn't think of that. Yeah. I don't know. I'm very direct in a lot of ways that aren't beneficial to mass society, it feels like, you know. And that's like good, but it's also like it's a very lonely existence, you know. Which Little Women also explores. Joe, she doesn't want Lori. Lori had been in love with her since the moment he saw her, basically. And she finally admits to him that he doesn't, or that she doesn't want him. And they go off and live their own lives. And a couple of years later, she regrets it a little. And not because she finds that she loves him, but she loves the idea of being loved. And she has this monologue about three-quarters the way through the movie, where she's like, women, you know, are so much more than just the love that they provide for the world, and they're not allowed to be very often. But to be a woman and to want to be more than the love that you provide for people is very lonely, you know? Like, women have been prescribed what they should be in society. And if they're more than welcome to not conform to that, but if they don't, you're not necessarily going to be supported the same way a man would be supported in his career endeavors, you know, because men have women, you know, and women have themselves, mostly, you know, and other women, you know. So it's weird. Anyway, ha ha ha. Let's talk about something a little bit more fun. Let's talk about some red flags. That being said, you know, I am open to the idea of dating. I don't know if I'm open to the idea of dating men, and I've been pretty against that for a while. There are a few that I consider briefly, and then they disappoint me almost immediately. Almost immediately. And you're like, ugh, why did I even consider that to begin with? You know? So yeah, let's talk about some red flags. And these red flags are going to just be for men. Women are allowed to do whatever the fuck they want as far as I'm concerned. And I think that that's pretty obvious with who I am. So, my first red flag. This one's pretty superficial. Okay, so for me, they have to have socials because I want you to be locked into the same things that I'm locked into. Like, you can't not have socials, in my opinion. I've dated men who don't have socials, and I grew up as a kid on the internet, and I think it's pretty integral to like who I am, you know, which sounds silly, but like I want you to be able, I want you to have the context, you know, I want you to know some context. But however, I don't want them to be super active on their socials. And it's a red flag if they have more followers on Instagram than he's following. I think that men usually have like a special interest, like sports or music or cars. Like Instagram models could be one of them, but we're going to talk about that too. We're going to talk about that too. So, but like usually men fall into one of those three categories, right? And then so they follow a bunch of accounts for that shit. So I'm like, you should be following more people than you're followed by, in my opinion. That's one of my red flags. Now listen, does this mean that I wouldn't, I like you, I work sort of as like the 80-20. These are red flags that I look for. Um, but if you don't have, like, you know, nobody's perfect. I probably fall under red flags that men have. That's not to say that I'm not a good partner, but I probably have red flags, you know, so like whatever. Um, so that's, oh, and then I also put not applicable if you're the only person he's following. Like I don't know, like a Tom doesn't isn't Zendaya like the only person that Tom Holland follows or some shit like that. Like that's fine. I'm cool with that. Um and then I said also you can't have like a problem with Instagram models. Like that can't be like most of your page, you know? But I follow a few Instagram models, so like I don't plan on unfollowing them. Like I don't know, yeah, whatever. Just don't be weird about it. Like, don't be like, I follow all of them. And then I'm gonna be like, it's weird, man. I don't know. But yeah, so that's my like those are my social media red flags, sort of. I also obviously I check socials for how recently previous relationships seem to have been. So like if you have past relationship stuff on your page, I think that's totally cool. I'm not somebody who deletes every single thing of past because I still think memories are like important, you know? Um just cuz you know like the truth matters or whatever. So um and I don't think that's like embarrass. I don't know, whatever. I understand people having conflicting feelings, but like I also think it's sort of naive to think that like you can just pretend that that never happens. Like I do think that we have an issue sort of with like not being realistic that your partner has dated people before you. Like I don't know, like to expect your partners to never talk about their previous relationships or whatever, I think is silly, but I also like if you recently broke up with your ex, I don't really know why you're talking to me because you should probably be working on yourself. Question mark, you know, like that's um if I notice that you are one of those people who relationship hop, I think that's a red flag for me in friends and in relationships. Because like I know the mental state that I was in when I relationship hopped when I was in high school. And I just have no business with being with somebody in that mental state. Do you know what I mean? It's a little too far gone for me for where I'm at this phase in my life, you know? So that's another red flag. So be aware, because like also those relationships may not be fully ended either. Because like, and the last thing that you want to get involved in is some fucking relationship drama, dude. Like, you know, that's just like that's not my MO, unfortunately. So that's that on that. The next one is sexualizes you in any way until you start that interaction. Now, how soon or not soon that is completely up to you. If you wanna dirty talk and you're like, you know, first couple interactions with somebody, that's up to you. I don't give a fuck what you do. However, homeboy should not even imply anything so much as sexual to you unless you're the one that insinuates first. Point blank, period. Okay? And even then, he should be shy at the beginning. Like, he should be watching his fucking P's and Q's. Do you know what I mean? Like, because it's a privilege to be talking like that with you, period. Doesn't matter if it was the first day. It doesn't matter if it's 6 months in. It's a privilege, and treat it as such. You know. So that's the tea on that as well. And there is a way to communicate your attraction to somebody in a way that's not like, what you trying to do? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, you know. That's gross. And not, yeah, it's just not like, you're a stranger on the internet. Who the fuck do you think you are talking to strangers on the internet like that? I think people forget that there are literal human beings on the other side of that screen. Like, if you were coming up to a stranger, you wouldn't be like, you trying to suck this dick? That's not the first thing that will come out of your fucking mouth. Especially to this intimidating face, fucking try it, bitch. You know what I mean? Like, anywho, another red flag that I have is too much communication too quickly. I prefer, personally, and this may be like an unpopular thing. I would like, if you are a man, which not many watch this, but if you are, and you are attracted to women and you are seeking women, or femmes, this may be different. So I would really, truly just ask the woman upon like your first couple of interactions. And I know that people think it's like corny and weird to like ask for directions, but like, how do you expect to know and adapt yourself to somebody's communication style without ever meeting them? Like, I don't know, set yourself up for success. You know what I mean? Be like, hey, I don't really plan on communicating a lot with you until we meet for the first time. Okay. Like, that's sort of my thing. We can maybe text like once or twice a day, where it's like, why is that on full volume? We could text like once or twice a day where, like, hey, how was your day? Hope your day was good. Great. Wonderful. See you. Like, I'm always going to bring up the date. Can't wait for blah. Right. And like, until we meet each other, I'm not fucking talking to you. I don't know you. I don't care about you. Like, and truly, that's the tea of it, is like, I have a hard enough time keeping up with the people that I already love. Like, what makes you think I should text you all day, every day? Go fuck yourself. How about that? And like, yeah, that's that on that. So but again, if you are somebody who, I don't know, this might just be like a dating thing that I think could be a good rule of thumb. I don't really date very often, as we've sort of established through the, yeah, not really. And also, I haven't dated a lot of women. Just like, women scare me because I respect them, you know? Dating men's like a little easier because, like, if they disappoint me, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense in my head, you know? It's like, whatever. But, anywho, so, I'm not really like a too much communication quickly kind of person. Anyway, next one is, resents pop culture. This is one of my biggest, because like, I have met men who like didn't know the most popular Lizzo song of like 2022. Like it was like, or like didn't know a very popular Taylor Swift song, and it's like, oh, you're actively dodging pop culture. Like, you're not just like unaware of pop culture, you're like actively resentful towards pop culture. And I think that's a red flag, because I think women are are what drives pop culture most often. If you listen to any popular podcast or whatever, they often talk, and they talk about optics. They often talk about how women have all the buying power, and women have all of, like, they are what drives capitalism, like, so to not respect women when they are like your like prime audience, or your like who you should be marketing to, um I think that that speaks to more of how that man perceives women. And I know that that's like a big jump to make, but that's something that I have always been right about. Like, any man that I have ever met that resents pop culture in any sort of way, uh, didn't care about women. Like, to put it nicely, yeah. So that's another red flag that I look for. Now, we did talk a little bit about too much communication too quickly, but I also, one of my red flags is that they're passive in their interest in you. Now, what that means to me, I do believe that there's like a way to communicate that you're interested in somebody without nagging them and texting them all the time. And I don't want to yuck someone's yum and say that like texting all the time is like too much or whatever. I didn't mean to like for it to be so derogatory, but it's I think that there's a way to be like, I don't know, there's a respectful way to express interest, you know? And like that starts with respecting women as a person first. And so all of these things, I think, for me, lets me know how you view women more than anything, like there's a lot of litmus tests for me where I'm like, these things to me show how you feel about society, how you like whatever, right? So, passive in their interest in you. So like when they text you every day, they could be like, can't wait to see your beautiful face, just like, and it doesn't have to be every single day, but like it's pretty easy. It's like, I don't know, it sounds easy when it's coming out of my mouth just now. And I didn't really have to think about it that hard. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Yeah, passive in their interest in you is a red flag. The next one is communication strictly through Snapchat. No, this one's obvious. This one comes up all the time. That's not to say, like, I'm on Snapchat all the time. Snapchat's one of my favorite. I love the close intimacy into people's lives that you get with Snapchat. I think it's cute. It's adorable that we all love sharing our little lives with each other. I think that's adorable. However, when people use it as their full communication, I think it indicates a couple things. I think it indicates, one, like maybe just like a age difference. Like if somebody grew up only using Snapchat as their main form of communication, I feel like we grew up either in different tax brackets, or we grew up in different generations. Because like, if you grew up around the time that I grew up, you only had like a very nice cell phone that, like, I don't know, had capabilities for apps like Snapchat, or like I had an iPod when I was younger that had those capabilities, but like, I don't know, if you had data access and like all that if you were rich enough to have all that stuff growing up, um until, I don't know, I was like I think it was like a sophomore, junior in high school before I got like a smartphone that had those things, um I just think that we grew up a little different. And then then also, are you going to be like okay with the fact that you're not going to be communicating with me through Snapchat forever? Like, I simply won't. Thank you though. And then also, yeah, I just like, then also there are, once it became accessible, I feel like that's moving into like early 20s category, and like that's not really my, I've been taken advantage of when I was in my early 20s by people who were too old to be messing with me and like were in positions of power over me. um so I just am not here for that, me feeling like I'm imparting that onto anyone, so I'm pretty strict about like my age gaps as well. So I don't know how I got on that from Snapchat, but that's just like not, those are my two, that's what that indicates to me. So Dante, would you like to say anything? Thank you. Next, we're going, oh, okay, so the next one has no women friends. Now, I think if a man has no women friends, one, he doesn't respect women as human beings, right? Two, he doesn't know how to be friends with a woman. Okay, so then there's also like a caveat to that, right? So you have to meet these women friends eventually. Cuz like you have to really suss out whether or not this man's women friends are people that like he will potentially fuck. Cuz like so there are some men who are only friends with women because they think that they'll potentially have sex with them someday. And like today's just not that day. You know what I mean? And then there are men who are friends with women because they see them as human beings and can have a platonic relationship with women, right? Um, and I think that men can flow between those two things. I think a lot of you would be more disappointed than you think with some of your male friends and what spectrum you think that you fall, what side of the spectrum you think you'd fall on, you know? So that's something that I implore you to do with all of your friends of the opposite sex someday, is like, and if you're straight or straight presenting, like really think to yourself, is like, does this person care about me for real? Or do they think that we're just gonna fuck someday? And like you'll stop being friends with some people. Like for real. So keep that in mind, but that's one of my red flags, is if I feel like you don't have any women friends who like they are for real your friend, you know. One of my requirements is, it's not a requirement yet, but like it's getting there, where like one of my requirements is like you might have to have sisters, or at least one sister. I think that that really helps with men understanding women, and it really helps, like those sisters help those men become better men a lot of times, not always, but like sometimes, as long as those women don't hate other women, you know so yeah. What's next? Oh, feels the need to shame overtly sexual women. Let's get into that. So I talked to somebody last summer, briefly, and every time, like I sent him a couple Meg The Stallion songs, and he was like, basically like, that whore. Like he didn't say it like that, but he was like, why do women feel the need to blah blah blah? And I like, the first time I corrected him, and the second time I was like, oh, I should probably just stop talking to you, huh? Like, because what the fuck is that about? Like, why you should not have an opinion about women in the way that they look, women that you're supposedly attracted to. By the way, the only thing that you should be saying to Meg The Stallion is thank you for your service, fucking dumbass bitch. Anyway, just like, what do you mean, by the way? Because the target audience for an overtly sexual woman is not women, by the way. Like, the target audience for overt sexuality is men. And if these women are rich, guess who's buying the shit? You know what I mean? Like, and not to say that Meg Thee Stallion, I actually don't think that Meg Thee Stallion caters to the male gaze as much as some other like overtly sexual artists. Like, that's not what I'm trying to insinuate. But it's just like this idea of, I feel the need to, I'm not comfortable with me and my sexuality or my self confidence or whatever the case may be. Whatever the case is, that person feels inferior when they're viewing somebody else's art. Hey, guess what? That's not the artist's fault. Hey, and to insinuate that because somebody's art makes you uncomfortable, that they're the problem, is a little silly. So yeah, I take issue with men commenting. The next red flag on here is talking about a woman's appearance in any context. I think that it's I don't know. I'm not somebody who I've been trying to unlearn talking about appearance as a insult, as a good thing, as a anything, right? Like, I've been trying to, like, there are friends that I know that I have that I'm like, you know, that I love things about you other than you being beautiful. So I'm like, I can not objectify, but I feel a little bit more comfortable objectifying them because they know that I think that they're brilliant and creative and excellent in every way, right? However, I'm trying to unlearn using superficial compliments just because, like, if I have those expectations of men, where I'm like, I don't want you commenting on women's bodies, then I shouldn't be commenting on women's bodies, I don't think. And I guess that I can, but like, that includes my own, like, I've been historically very, very, very negative about my body and been very loud about it. And that's not to say that, like, being self-aware about the things about your like health, that I'm completely healthy, but I know fat phobic people will try to exclaim that I'm not. Um as it relates to body health. Brain health is a whole different thing, team. I just, like, women have heard enough about their bodies, and guess what? They are explicitly, I think everyone, I don't think it's just women, I think everyone is explicitly aware of their body at all times, and I think that it's the last thing that we probably need to comment about each other, because, like, I know that every day of my life since I was probably 6 years old, at least, I've wanted to be skinnier. And it has been one of my all consuming thoughts since I was probably 10. Um, and thinking about my body and thinking about the things that I'm consuming has taken over my life for months at a time before. And so, and maybe even years, right? So, I don't think it's a thing that men need to be doing. I don't think it's a thing that women need to be doing. I think, if anything, we should be encouraging each other to be kind to ourselves, but also encouraging each other to, like, employ fun movement into their lives, instead of shaming them about the things that they're already aware of. So, what's next? And I don't think it's just, hey, by the way, I don't think it's just fat people who think about their bodies all day, every day. I think it's everyone. So, just even more reason to not talk about people's looks unless you've already established with them that you think they're the coolest person ever in other ways. Make people's bodies the least important part of them, or the way that they look the least important part of them, you know. So next is the last one that I have for now is doesn't do things they say that they're gonna do. Hey, I thought about getting you flowers today. Okay, well then where are they, sir? Oh, I thought about doing this for you. I thought about surprising you at this. Okay, thanks for letting me know. You know what I mean? If a man says he's gonna do something and he doesn't, make a mental note of that. He said he was going to do this and he hasn't. Okay, check. He said he was going to do the dishes, but he hasn't for 3 days, and they've been sitting there for 3 days. He promised me that that was his chore that he was going to take on, and he hasn't now. That was the one thing that he said he was going to take on, and he hasn't. Okay, I'm going to mentally note that. Just keep a note of it. Don't yell at him. Don't nag him to do it. Just quietly make a mental note. And when you've had enough mental notes to when you're sick of the shit, then you quietly pack up your shit and you peace. But so part of the step of being confident in what you bring to the table as a person, as a partner, as a whatever, is standing on that shit. Okay? So once you've made that decision that this person is not good enough for your standards, then you stand on it. And you don't allow that person back into your life unless they've proven that they're better. And they may not be able to prove it for you for years. Okay? But if they really want to, they'll make it happen. You know? So those are my red flags. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about is my ideal partner. This is a list that I made over a year ago after my most recent like life-shattering life experience that happened. Like there was like a span of like, I don't know, maybe 6 months where life was like, it was more than 6 months. It was like 2 years where like life was crazy nonstop. And during that breakup that happened during that time, I was like, okay, I can't know that somebody doesn't meet my standards unless I make standards. So I sat down and I wrote down qualities in a man or woman. Like I said, I'm not as familiar with dating women, so I don't have as much practice. So I don't have any of these things, these standards for dating women, because I've never dated a woman long term yet. So I haven't explored that far yet. So now it's not very long yet. I haven't worked on it for a while. I like wrote it once and then I haven't really revisited it a lot unless I'm thinking about going on a date with somebody that I know already, sort of. Like, if I already know you and like you've come back into my orbit, I check to see the vibes, okay? So I have I put undergraduate degree at least. This one again, this seems pretty, I don't know. I don't like this as my first one. I don't like it as so this is my ideal partner, right? That's not to say that they have to, because I feel like that's sort of mean, right? To be like, they have to have a degree. But I also think that I would really appreciate someone who has been through the university experience. I think somebody would understand me so much more as a person if they've also experienced the university experience, So that's why I put that on there. And then this one I'm sort of gonna change a little bit. I think back when I wrote this was almost 2 years ago now that I think that I wrote this. At the time I was so in defense mode where I was like, they could never do these things. But I also sort of realized in the last 2 years that like I can't expect things from somebody that I can't provide, So um this one is effective communication, no yelling, overreactions, or passive remarks. Now, I am known to do some of these things from time to time. So I also can't expect somebody to never do these things. I'm saying most of the time you can't do those things. Okay. So I'm gonna change the wording in here soon. I'm gonna probably revamp this list eventually. I haven't looked at this in a while, but um that's like I want most of the time for that not to be the case. Sometimes if you're having a bad time, I get it, man. Like people are we're gonna fuck up sometimes. That's the whole thing with whatever. So the next one is validates my experiences even if they're about them. This is really important to me. I've spent most of my life never being validated by people. um and like me communicating the way that they've made me feel and them being like, well, that's not what it is. I'm like, well, that's how I think it is. And so does it really matter if that was the intention? Because what you did was to me, and that's how I'm perceiving it. So it doesn't really matter how you intended for the thing to be. The T is this is the way that I've perceived it. So um I yeah. I would like somebody to be able to be like, I understand how you feel that way. I think that's I don't think that that's crazy. Period. Next one is alcohol consumption, but in a social, casual way. I don't drink a lot. I probably couldn't tell you the last time I drank right now, which is a big improvement from where I've been in the past. And yeah, I think I grew up seeing what casual in not casual alcohol consumption and what regular alcohol consumption does to people long term. I come from alcoholics on both sides of my family, so it's something that I don't fuck with for real. And I did fuck with it for real for a while. Like I really fucked with alcohol for a while. Um, but I see what alcohol does to families. I see like firsthand. However, I do like to have a good night out once in a while, right? Like I like throwing ass in a club. I like I don't know. I like being on hood rat shit sometimes. So I totally get wanting to party. I have like maybe 6 good party days in me a year. Um and that's generous. It's probably a little bit more than that. But not by much anymore. Um yeah. So that's that on that. What's next? I put doesn't smoke cigarettes but isn't judgy about a drunk cig. That's yeah, my ideal partner would be like that. Will dance with me at a club or event. I've had pretty good luck with that most of my life. Um I've had partners who will. I've had a few partners who really won't. And that's just like so humiliating. Because like what do you mean you're just gonna stand on the side of the room? Like that's humiliating. Like you're giving insecure, you're giving like yeah, it's just not cute. Have some fun, let loose. The insecurity's not cute. Confidence is one of like my biggest needs. which leads me into like some issues because most confident men are also egotistical men. Um, and like same, but like I don't know, it's just cuter when I do it, you know? But I don't know, man. It's weird. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, dancing with me is important. I've been dancing my ass off since I was like, I don't know, 2. I dance like almost every day, even still into my adulthood. So like dancing will always be important to me, and that's something that is going to have to be okay at the wedding, at the club, at the events that I drag you to. Because, that's who I am, you know. Um Next is doesn't comment on people's weight or eating patterns. We talked about that a little bit. Understands that my friends are very important and probably most important until I have a literal ring on my finger. And then I put won't get mad when I prioritize them if they need something. This is something that yeah, I think most men don't get this and won't ever get this. I think that I've lost plenty of friends because they decided that love was more important than their friendships with people, and always have. And like, because I was also, like I said, I just recently started these new expectations for my life. Like I've never had standards for my life before. I've always just like allowed life to tell me what's good enough and what's not. And when I finally started to set the standards, my relationships with people changed, obviously. And as, of course they would. Um and that was one of them, like understanding that every relationship that I've had up until now, I have prioritized that over everything that I was allowed to prioritize over it. Had I not had like a very strict mom, or like not like I had a upbringing that really honed in, and not just from my mom, from both my parents, and I credit them for that. Like it's complicated and it's layered, because I'm very grateful that that was the case for this specific situation. Like I was taught that school and sport, like things that you think will profit for you later, those things come first. Nothing comes before your money. Um, and like I wasn't at a lot of times, like for some of these relationships I was an adult, but I was still in college for a lot of them. But like my school, the thing that was going to get me paid, nothing came before that. And so like those things never suffered. But anything else that I could put before those relationships, I didn't. I never put my friends before my relationships. I never put my relationship with my family before my relationship with my partners at the time. Like nothing was more important to me than the needs and wants of the man that I was seeing at that time. And I um it has never gotten me anywhere but behind from where I thought I was going to be before I started dating them. And that's a shitty realization to come to, that like I have been pouring into men my whole life and putting them absolutely first. And none of that has ever benefited me ever. And in fact, it's put me at a disadvantage from where I would have been had I not dated them. Ugh. That's devastating. That's devastating. Holy shit, you know? Um, yeah. So that's like, so with that lesson, with me grasping that, I'm like, okay, now I'm in a phase where my friends have always been the people who have built me up, right? And they have taught me how to be an adult. They have taught me, many of my friends helped raise me, you know, in the ways that money didn't, you know, because that was like the only caretaking that happened to me growing up was people provided money for me, right? Um, Not the only caretaking, but yeah, certainly not. I never received like emotional caretaking growing up, and I don't think a lot of children did, but I don't think that's exclusive to me. So a lot of us relied on our friends. My friends have always been my pillars of support, so I don't really understand why I would ever um, put anyone or anything over them. You know, um, they're my family in a lot of ways. So um, that's the T on understands that my friends are important to me. Um, Makes an effort to understand my anxiety and stand with me while I cope. Doesn't try to fix the problem, but encourages me to fix my own I actually don't want to go through the rest of this. But those are just like some of them, right? Like those are, I implore you to like make lists like this. Like really sit down and be like, what do I see for myself for a future partner? Um and like what sort of like be really honest about the life that you live. Like don't let yourself think that you're like an outdoorsy person if you're not. You're like, maybe I don't like the beach. I fucking hate sand. I think sand is repulsive. It's a sensory nightmare. And like I love going to the bar across the street from the beach, but like I'm not really a fan. I'm not really fucking with the beach for real. And like I know that about myself. So I can't really date someone who's like really into the beach. That's just not it doesn't matter how much y'all love each other. It's just an incompatibility, you know? And like it is okay to have incompatibility and that's reason enough to not want to date someone. It doesn't have to be like, "Oh, I think you're a bad person." Oh, this like according to these standards that I've set for myself, you don't align. I'm sorry. You know, like there's no beef, there's no whatever. It's just like I made myself a Bible and you don't fall in line with the criteria, you know. I and I think another thing that women get told a lot is that their expectations are too high. And as I've been talking, I'm probably like, if there are men listening and they hate women, or even if they don't hate women and they just aren't interested in hearing women's perspectives if they clash with theirs about their lived experiences, you know, um, that like I can hear the inner monologue of men being like, that fucking bitch, who does she think she is having these fucking standards, right? And I don't know. I think I have complicated feelings about that because I think everyone's allowed to have standards for the life that they want to live, right? Even if I am a fat fucking bitch, right? I don't think I am, but even if I was, bitch, and what? You know, like I don't I'm also starting to view descriptors like fat or whatever as neither positive nor negative, you know. And I'm working towards that. Obviously, like that's some exposure therapy that I'm working into this, you know. But it's something that I think is important, you know, taking misogynist power out of the things that they are used to controlling us by is important to me. So if a man calls me a fat fucking pig, like my dad has, then I can be like, guess what? I don't care anymore about what you have to say about me, you know? So that's like very important to me, you know? Someday I'll drop a book with all the lore, you know, but for now, just know you'll just have them sprinkled in here and there. But that's like, it's most of my standards come from, are you a good person, and what do your actions lead me to believe about your intentions, because men, not just men, people say shit all the time. People are constant. I'm yapping constantly. I've probably said a million things in this podcast that I don't actually believe, or because I'm yapping. I'm just talking into a microphone. Actually, I believe most of the shit I said, I'm sure, but you know, I might be saying shit that isn't true. Even, I don't know. The T is like, people say shit all the time. It's how they act that really matters. You can you can give me like a sad face and like whatever and say that you're sorry, but like, you're not really sorry if you just went and did it again. You're sorry you got caught. And those are different things. I admire directness, I admire empathy, and I admire confidence. Those are like three important traits that I look for in potential friends, potential partners, etc. So I don't know. I've been feeling kind of crazy lately, if you couldn't tell. I'm disappointed. These are the options, I ought to text your mama. That's it. That's all I got. All right, I'm over it. Okay. Love you. Love you so bad. I will talk to you again next week. Actually, well, not actually. We have some very exciting stuff coming next week and the week after, and like, I'm really excited for the direction that the podcast is going. And I'm trying to find, like, for an advocacy update, I'm trying to find my best course of action. I'm thinking that I might pull witnesses together and start to like create an interviewing project, and I don't know. We're gonna figure something out though. I'm not open to allowing predators to continue to hire on predators in a school district in a place that I grew up and I love. So that's it. All right. Love you. I hope that you have a excellent week. I hope that you get outside and go for like a nice walk at some point. And you drink some water and wash your face. So, yeah. All right. Bye. Love ya.